Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today is the 1st of September, and while the weather doesn't really show it, I'm still a sweaty mess. We are starting the autumn equinox for Orilium, and I will start 3 books today. I managed to finish all of my ongoing reads in August, so I have a clean slate to start off the month, and I have 8 books selected for my Calling of Archmage, and I also want to continue on with the quest when that happens. So want to start 3 books today, and the first one of those, and probably also the first one I will finish, is Beren and Luthien by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is one of the stories that is already in the Silmarillion, so I already know the story, but I got this as a gift and I want to see what is different in this book. I think it has a different, longer version of the tale, so I am intrigued, and this kind of a reread but kind of not, so we'll see how that goes. It probably isn't that long, so we'll see how long it takes me to finish this. Did I just hit myself in the eye? I did. But that's a reading vlog for you. So this is the first book we'll finish. In this story we follow Beren, a human, and Luthien, an elf, and their love story. They have to defeat the big bad evil to be together. So very dramatic love story here. Then the next book I want to start today is an ebook I got from my library, and that is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is a romantasy. If you know me, I don't really read romantasy that much, especially not the very hyped kind of romantasy. So we'll see how that goes. I'm kind of scared, but I also have friends that I trust that like this book. So I'm going in with an open mind and just a hair on my face. So we'll see. I have no idea what this book is about. I think it has dragons, maybe, but it definitely has a romance, and I hope it won't be too cringy. I can do a little bit of cringy romance, but if it gets too much, I'm out of here. So we'll see. So that I will start later when I take a bath, because I don't want to take this copy into the bathtub. It's just too nice and pretty for that. And then last but not least, I started my audiobook, which is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alix E. Harrow. Now, this is a book I will do a reading vlog on, because Alix E. Harrow is one of the authors I wanted to try this year. This book follows a young girl who grows up right at the start of the 20th century, and she is kind of mixed race. I heard that the representation isn't that great, so far it does feel a little bit flimsy. We'll see how the story deals with that. I obviously can't speak to that representation at all, but I just wanted to start at the beginning with Alix E. Harrow and see what her books are like. Also, I needed this book badly for one of the prompts. There was no other book that worked for the prompt except for this one. So we'll see how it goes. This girl discovers a door when she's a small child, a blue door, somewhere in Kentucky. And she goes through the door, and it's basically a portal fantasy, but a little bit different because we have multiple doors. So I'm intrigued to see how this story unfolds. I think it will be very magical and just an interesting kind of fantasy that I don't read that often. Portal fantasy, I do read it, but not as much as you would think, I guess. So these are the 3 books we go into for the TBR. I'll let you know when something interesting happens.
Yeah, if you right click where the actual quest is.
So I'm giving you a fair warning. I will do the quest in this vlog as well, and I will mark in the chapters whenever I talk about the quest, because that might be considered a spoiler if you haven't done it yourself yet. So just keep in mind to skip over these parts if you don't want to spoil it for the quest. So we have the first task to do. In this one, we don't need to read another book, but it is a reading task nonetheless. And as you can see right here, the first task is to read in the early morning on at least 3 occasions. Now, I'm not a morning reader, so this will be a little bit of a challenge for me, but I will try to do this next week. I have 7 days to try to do it 3 times, and then the next part of the quest opens. So, yeah, read in the mornings. Interesting task. So today is the 3rd of September and I thought I'd let you know how it's going with my 3 books. Now, first of all, with my audiobook, I'm currently about 11% into it and I'm really enjoying it. I will do a separate reading vlog all about that book, so you will hear more details once that is uploaded. But yeah, I'm having a good time. I really like the narration style and it's just nice. It is a book that I would have preferred to read in winter, to be honest. It definitely gives me those vibes of like these fairy tale-esque fantasy stories, but still, I'm really liking it. And then I'm reading my 2 very different fae romance stories. Let's begin with Beren and Luthien. I am almost 2/3 of the way into this book by now and I'm really enjoying it. I'm not quite sure, I think I told you what the actual story of Beren and Luthien is about, but what this book does is that it basically tracks the development of this story. So we start out with a very early version that is quite short, and for everyone who might not be familiar with the tale, you can get a first glimpse of the main plot points, and then we look at different versions, and especially this one version that is written in verse, and it's just beautiful. Like, I was sitting there last night reading it out loud because I think that Tolkien's poetry is always best when you read it out loud, and it's just great. It's really nice. I enjoy going back to that story and reading it. It is one that is very dear to my heart. I'm reading this for the emotional book prompt because of that. It was my first introduction into Tolkien's works, and it is also connected in my heart to someone who was very important to me, my stepsister, when I was growing up. Unfortunately, we have lost sight of each other. I don't really know where she is in the world, but during my childhood she was very important to me, and she read this story of Beren and Luthien to me, and that was like the first Tolkien that ever entered my brain. And so yeah, it's a very nice but definitely also a little bit emotional read, and I'm very much enjoying it, and depending on how tonight goes I will be able to finish it, so that would be great as well. And then last but not least, we have my current ebook that I'm reading. I'm also about 10-11% into that, and that is the When the Moon Hatched. And this is a fantasy romance, so I'm a little bit a fish out of water with that book, but I am having a good time with it. So far nothing really has popped up that really bothers me. There's one thing that I find a little bit weird, but you know, sometimes you have to overlook these things because like in this world, first of all, we follow a woman And she is basically an assassin for this rebellious group that are trying to chip away at the king, because the king is very brutal. He takes children away from their families when they show magical abilities to get them for his armies, and he ignores basically everyone who doesn't have magical abilities. He doesn't really see them as his citizens. They don't get any help, and it's really hard for them to live. And so our main character is very frustrated and fed up with that, and she is this assassin basically killing people who take advantage of the disadvantaged. And during one of her jobs, she meets this mysterious stranger who has a chiseled jaw and is very, very tall and big. And yeah, that's it so far. But I am okay with it so far. The one thing that I just don't get, in this world, the planet we're on, it doesn't move around the sun, so it's static. So we have one half of the world that is always in sunlight and one half that is always in shadow, which I think is very interesting. I know other books have explored stuff like that as well. And then the story is actually currently set in the middle part that is called the Fade, where you have this like eternal twilight situation basically. And so there is like a magical thing that still kind of gives them days. So there is like a morning and an evening and stuff like that. They call it a little bit differently. And so instead of calling that a day, like D-A-Y, they call it a day, D-A-E. It's like, at first I was confused. I thought maybe that is a word. Like maybe it is a word. I don't know. English is not my first language, so I was a little bit confused. But I think it's just day, like day. But then they also have these things they call a moon, and a moon is actually a dead dragon in the sky. And I'm like, why can you not call a day? Just because it's not like a literal day with the sun as we have, but then you call these things moons. Make it make sense. So that's a bit odd for me personally. But apart from that, I am going in with an open mind and we'll see how the story develops. For now, I'm focusing on Beren and Luthien because that is the first alchemy prompt I need, and then I need When the Moon Hatched. So I will go deeper into that later. But that's where we're at so far. I'm also doing the first quest thing we need to do right now, so that's going well, and yeah, it's fun so far. So today is the 5th of September and I finished my first book for the readathon, which was Beren and Luthien by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was an interesting book. I gave it 4 stars in the end. I think if you really love Tolkien, this might be an interesting read because it really explores how this tale of Beren and Luthien came together. You can read it in like different stages of development basically, but because of that, this book also has quite a bit of repetition, and if you just come into this to read this story that is also referenced in The Lord of the Rings, then I think you will be a little bit put off probably. I still, when I read this, was thinking about how I would rather read the Silmarillion to really get like a cohesive story, and I think if you haven't delved that deep into Tolkien, this is probably not the right book to pick up. But as I said, I still enjoyed it. I still think that this is a very interesting story in the whole like Middle-earth realm, and I'm really glad to finally get this off my TBR. I think I will probably keep it because it is a very pretty copy and it is a tale that is near and dear to my heart. But yeah, I don't know if I will also check out The Fall of Gondolin just because I'm not the biggest fan of these books, but we'll see about that. That is for future me to decide. And for now, we have ticked off the first class. I read this for the O in Alchemy. Now, since I have 8 books on my TBR, it would be good if I finish around 2 books a week. So we're going full steam on When the Moon Hatched now, and I'm intrigued to read more. I haven't since we last spoke, really, and yeah, I will make this my reading priority for now. I'm also making progress in my audiobook. I'm about 40% into the 10,000 Days of January right now, still enjoying it. I really like what we're discovering, but I just want the plot to like move a little bit faster. I think the main plot is still like very, very slow. So we'll see whether that eventually happens, but I am enjoying the process of reading it. I just wish I was enjoying the story a little bit more.
Beware of the quest spoilers. So we have reached the next step in the quest, and I must be honest, we're already having a bit of trouble because we have 3 options, and G talked about these options in a live stream, and I think the decision you make here is kind of important. So I'm scared. I'm definitely scared. I think the one I want to choose is the last one, just because the other 2, I don't feel like doing those challenges, like the one with the multiple maps. Like you have to read something physically or you wouldn't know, and my physical TBR is already so big. And translated book would probably work, but I feel like that is the like option that my character wouldn't go for. So we're doing option number 3, and there might be some shuffling around with the books, because I have one book on my TBR, the manga, that has a cat on the cover, but then I would need something else with a red script, like the title is red on the book. I do have other options for that. So we might do a little bit of a skedoodle there, but for now I will continue on with the books I'm currently reading, and then we'll see what we do about the quest.
So today is the 9th of September. The autumnal weather has hit Germany. We'll see how long it lasts, but at least this week it's supposed to be quite cold and rainy, so we'll see. I wanted to give you a update for the first week of the readathon. So my goal is to read 2 books for my calling every week, because I have to read 8 books and we do have approximately 4 weeks in September. So I did reach that goal for the first week, even though in a different way than I anticipated. So I already told you about the first book I had finished. Yesterday I did finish a second book, and that was the 10,000 Doors of January, which I will do a complete reading vlog for, so I won't say too much. I gave it 3.5 stars. I think it was an interesting read, but it never really managed to catch my full attention. I will definitely read more from this author, but I think just this first book wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. But there were some great parts in it. It's just the overall thing didn't always work for me. So I read this for the O in Inscription. We are going to continue on with Inscription with my next audiobook, which is going to be Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. I have been meaning to read another book by them for a very long time, since I read Just Like Home for the Magical Readathon in 2022. So it is about time to continue on with this author. This is a novella that seems to be set in kind of a post-apocalyptic world, or like something at least has happened, so that the world feels like a Western again. The characters talk about cars not being around anymore because they don't have any more fuel. So I have just started listening to it. I'm not really that far in, but we're following a young girl called Esther who runs away from her town after her best friend and lover Beatrice was hanged, and Esther, tries to kind of get her way into the Librarians, which is a organization of women, and she kind of sneaks her way into this camp of the librarians, or some of the librarians. And we do have a lesbian couple and a non-binary apprentice, and Esther tries to be able to travel with them. So that's the main premise. I'm intrigued. This is just a novella, so this will be a very quick read, and I think I can also finish that this week. And then the next book for this week I really want to finish is When the Moon Hatched. I'm currently about 2/3 of the way into that. I must say that I'm not loving it. I have there are moments that are technically quite beautiful, but the main character ruins every single one of those moments. And she is just on a path of self-destruction, and I'm pretty sure it is meant to be like some kind of like PTSD, her like trauma, but because we don't really know her past and she doesn't know a large part of her past, it's just self-destruction, and it's like very irritating to read about. And so yeah, I still have quite a bit of that left. I hope to finish it early this week so I can finally move on to my next physical book. But yeah, this one not working for me, unfortunately. I had seen a couple of my friends that I trust liking it, but I don't think I will end up really liking it, unfortunately. But I'm still gonna finish it just because I'm a completionist. I know this is the start of a series. I probably will not continue with that. I don't even know whether I really talked about this book, but it is a fantasy romance. We have a main character who is a fae assassin and so badass, and I don't know, and then she just tumbles along the way into the lap of this like very large, very hot fae king. And they do have like a past. We do have these diary entries. I think those are actually quite nice. And we kind of see the past of someone that is in the story but doesn't remember. It's complicated. You know, it's complicated. I think that the general idea behind the book is nice. I do like that. I can't with the main character, and the writing also isn't that great. Like, it does this thing where, you know, sometimes when you want it to be read like every word is like, you know, for itself, and they do the like word full stop thing. This book does like enter, like you just have one word per line. Yeah, I don't know. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's just not working for me, guys. And so, yeah, that's the plan, to continue on with those two books. I'll let you know how it goes. So somehow today is already the 12th of September. I don't know what's going on, but I finished another book for my calling. I finished my inscription qualified by reading the book Upright Women Wanted. And this is a novella. It is inspired by westerns and follows lesbian librarians. And it was really good fun. It was a fun time. I think for a novella it did what it set out to do. In the end I decided to give it 3.5 stars. I just felt like this could have been a little bit more, especially with the setup that this is not actually a western, but it is kind of like a dystopia where the United States have kind of reverted back to a Western feeling society. So not getting to know anything about the hows and whys and whens, it just wasn't quite enough for me personally. I like a little bit more world building in that regard. And I did like the characters. I feel like I wasn't the biggest fan of the main character in this one. She is a little bit timid, which makes sense in the kind of setting, but then at the same time, yeah, I just wanted her to develop a little bit more or like differently or see a little bit more of it. I'm not quite sure what was missing for me, but like something was missing. You definitely get all the like westerny things you're looking for. You get horses, you get guns, you get like the dust cloud on the horizon, stuff like that. So I think the Western vibes definitely were there. And yeah, it was fun. It was a fun experience, and we finished everything we have to do for inscription with that one. So I have 3 classes finished out of my 8. Still a bit to go. Now, I'm still slogging my way through When the Moon Hatched. This book is just never ending, and the more I read, the lower the rating gets. So this is one of those books where I know I should just DNF it, but you know me, I'm a fucking completionist, so we'll persevere. But my next update will be that I have finished that book. I promise you that. And I have, I don't know, I think in the audiobook version I have 100 pages left. So could I finish it tonight? Maybe, but definitely tomorrow. Like, I have to finish it before the weekend. This is getting ridiculous. And then for my next audiobook, I want to start another one of the audiobooks I had chosen on my TBR, and that is The Dead Cat Tail Assassins by P. Djèlí Clark. This is a fantasy where we follow a woman who is dead, but she's still walking around because she's one of those dead cat tail assassins, and I think she has to do her job in order for not to be completely dead. That's what I know about this one. Very excited. I love P. Djèlí Clark, one of my favorite authors. This is also a rather short book, so we'll see. I think I will finish it quite quickly, probably within a week. I'm intrigued and excited to get into that one. So today is the 14th of September and I do have a reading update. First of all, I finally finished reading When the Moon Hatched, and this book was terrible. Also ignore my background, it's for a different video, you will see that soon. But yeah, that book was terrible. It was terrible. Why did people tell me to read this? Why did people like this? It was just so bad, and I'm sorry, like, if you enjoyed this, I'm so sorry, but like, I had the worst time. The longer I kept reading it, the worse it got, and the ending was definitely the worst thing ever. Like, I don't know if I've ever read an ending that was so terrible, because nothing happens at the end. There is so many open questions you can have when you read this book, and not a single one is answered. There is this supposed twist at the end, but that's something you know when you read the book. Like, you can probably figure it out like 2/3 into the book. I don't know, but it was not shocking, and it was supposed to be shocking, but these hints were like hitting you over the head with what is going on there, and then all the other things that you might want to find out. For example, who the fuck is Fallon? There is a character called Fallon, and she is brought up again and again, and we don't know anything about this character. We never meet them, we never hear about them, apart from that they exist in a certain location. And why? And then, you know, our main character is Rafe, and for most of the book we get her perspective. There are a couple of chapters from other perspectives, and then it ends with like multiple chapters that are a different perspective. What's going on there? Like, you couldn't even give us like a last chapter from her point of view to kind of like close it off with the main character? No? You're not even gonna give us that? Like, what was that? Like, if I had the physical book, I would have thought that someone had ripped out chapters before giving the book to me. I just don't understand it. And also, there's like no character development. This main character is the most unreasonable person in the whole world. She will never make a single good choice in the whole book, and by the end of the book, instead of her having some kind of a development and realize that maybe there is more going on, and maybe that she should know a couple of things that she just refuses to learn, instead of something tiny little bit like that happening, basically the love interest gives up, and he's like, I realize you don't care about any of this, so I'm just letting you go because you don't care about anything other than yourself. And I'm sorry, but is that really like how you want a fantasy romance to end, with the love interest being like, I'm kind of giving up on you now, like, you can come back if you want, but like, I'm giving up now because I realize I'm just not getting through to you. And I'm like, this was terrible. This was absolutely fucking terrible. And the idea of the world was good, but then everything we explore about it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. So yeah, I'm so glad this is done. I would give it 1 star, but I reserved the 1 stars for like actively offensive books. So I'm giving this one 2 stars, but it's like, it's so bad. It's so bad, you guys. So once I was free of that, I needed something else. I had to read something to like clear my head of all of that. So I went and read a manga, and I read Cheese Sweet Home Volume 8. This is a manga series where we follow a small cat called She, and in the first volume she loses her family. She gets lost, and she's found by this human family, and they adopt her, and it's just her little adventures. And this was cute, this was wholesome. Gave it 3.5 stars. It's just very cute. So in terms of the readathon, When the Moon Hatched gave me the Q in alchemy, and I read Chi for the quest. And now it's where it's getting a little bit difficult, because I started reading House of Always next. And originally I have this as my 5-star prediction for the O in Spells and Incantation. But there is a quest challenge that I think I can only fill with this book, and so that's a little bit difficult. But I do have choices. So I think for now I will do a different choice with the quest, and only if I cannot succeed with that different choice, I will have to like switch things around a little bit, which I don't want to do. And this is the fourth book in the Court of Dragons series. I have a whole reading vlog for the first 3 books already uploaded, so you can check it out. And I will do a separate one for book 4 and 5. I'm so excited to get into this. You guys, you don't even know. And then for my audiobook, I am finally getting into the Dead Cat Tail Assassins, and I'm really enjoying it. It does take me a while to get into it, but by now I have listened to a little bit of that, and it is definitely getting more interesting. We're following a woman who is dead, but she still is an assassin, because she made a deal with the goddess that when she dies, she will kind of keep on existing, but without her memories, and she will have to do these assassin tasks for the goddess. But she just got a job that is very different from all the other ones she ever had before. And there seems to be a little bit of like time fuckery going on with this one, so I'm intrigued to see where it goes. So that's my reading update, I think. I hope I didn't forget anything. So I'll let you know how it goes. We'll probably have one more update and then finish off this first part of the vlog.
Okay, quest spoilers incoming. We charmed the owl cat and it was not successful. And I thought this was one where you just make a choice and you just have to live with it and have a path. But no, we have to go back. We have to go back, no. Okay, this is a little bit unfortunate because the other 2 options is a book with multiple maps or a translated book. So I will have a little look around my bookshelf and see what I can find, but both of these are kind of unfortunate for my TBR right now.
So today is the 16th of September and it's time to finish off the first half of this vlog. I'm currently 185 pages into House of Always, which is almost halfway through. Very excited about that. I spent pretty much all of yesterday reading this. It takes forever because the font is so tiny and there's just so many words on a page. It just takes a while to read this, but I am enjoying it. This is different from the other books, but then also not so different. It's interesting because basically the story in this one is very contained because all of these characters physically are in the same room for the whole time until now, and I presume for the whole rest of the book, maybe. But this is all taking place in mines, so it's quite interesting what they're doing here. So I'm intrigued to read the rest of this and talk more about that in the next part of this vlog. Then with my audiobook, The Dead Cat Tail Assassins, I have about 2 hours left, so I should be able to finish that by tomorrow. And yeah, I'm enjoying it as well. I thought I would enjoy it more, which is a little bit sad. So I think this might so far be my least favorite P. Djèlí Clark book, which doesn't say much because I love his books. But yeah, so far I'm just a little bit disappointed. Like my expectations were like up there somewhere, and so we'll see. But again, I will talk more about that in the next part of this vlog. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. But I wanted to give you a quick rundown of where we're at with the readathon before I let you go. Okay, I have to look at my laptop because my memory is shit. But I finished the O in Alchemy by reading Beren and Luthien. I finished the Q in Alchemy by reading When the Moon Hatched. I finished the O in Inscription with 10,000 Doors of January. And the Q in Inscription with Upright Women Wanted. And then I finished Chi for the quest. So far I'm halfway through my classes with 4 books read and 4 books I still need to read. So I'm pretty much on track. And then also with like the next 2 books, I'm like pretty far into them. So I'm feeling good, even though House of Always definitely is a chunker. And we'll just see how the rest of the month goes, but I hope you so far having a lot of fun with the Magical Readathon if you're participating. Definitely let me know down below what has been your favorite book so far in September. I would love to hear about that and any of your other thoughts, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye!